Does the channel provide value?
Focus on the foundation.
I am a travel vlogger.
It's always about communication.
Build those partnerships.
What are the problems that you solve for your clients?
Just being ahead on the technological side of things.
Leading an organization.
You not only want to survive, but you want to thrive. They said it wouldn't last, and they said that you can't drive profitable and incremental revenue through the affiliate channel. But here we are, 20 years later, and the affiliate channel is alive and kicking and generating profitable revenue for thousands of retailers across the globe. Hi, I am Jamie Birch, your host of the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast, where we talk to some of the industry's best and brightest about their careers, about leadership, and about how to drive profitable revenue through the affiliate channel. Hello, this is Jamie Birch with the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast. I'm your host today, and I am the CEO and founder of JEBCommerce, your award-winning affiliate management agency. And boy, do we have a special one for you today. I know I say that a lot, but man, we have some fun today. I have Fong Snyder joining me, longtime friend. We have been in the space together since the beginning, back in the day. But hey, before I give you a little more introduction over this episode, we cover a lot of strategies and stories on this podcast, and sometimes it can be difficult to keep up. So that's why my team and I compiled the very best strategies. We got 19 with a special 20th one in there, bonus one on affiliate marketing programs. Now, we created that in the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and they were 19 strategies to survive and thrive in this current climate. But guess what? They work all the time. So you can go to jebcommerce.com/strategies and pick up that guide. Don't miss out. It also includes videos walking you through every single strategy. So go to jebcommerce.com/strategies for that free guide. Now, Karen and I have worked together since way back at Coldwater Creek and her time at School Pop. And today we talk a lot about all those things. We really dive into her 17 years or more of working remote and what it's like. Now, right now, there's a lot of new stuff going on. This podcast is being recorded in mid-June, and businesses are looking at opening back up and opening their offices again. So working remotely and what that looks like is becoming an even more important discussion as employers look at, should we require people to come back? So Karen and I talk about what it's like, what the onus is on the employee's perspective, what they own as far as what they should be doing in order to make that a success. But also she shares a ton of great things about what C-level leaders and managers should know about what it's like to work remote and what they should be doing. This stuff is really, really gold. And there's even a top 5, maybe top 7 or 32 ways that you can make working remotely successful. And then we dive into some affiliate marketing issues. So I really highly recommend you listen to this one through the end. You can tell we are having fun in spite of the technical issues that we had to overcome today and in the past to get this thing recorded. But really enjoy this conversation that I had with Fong Snyder. All right, this is Jamie with the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast, and with me is longtime friend. We're going to have some fun today. Fong Snyder, what is up? We have recording. It looks like it's working. We are both super hot in our offices right now, ready to go. How the hell are you, Karen?
Oh, so great. So great. Great to see you again.
You too. We totally should have talked or recorded our conversation about boy bands because, like we said, everyone would want to listen to that.
If you want to keep it professional and respectful.
That's true. Well, how are you? Again, for maybe the third time I've asked this question today as we tried to make this work. How are you today?
Things are great. It sounds, and we're heading towards the end, I feel like, of pandemic where in California things are opening up. I forgot what tier we're at, but we're able to go to restaurants and we can go see a movie. I think it's one movie though, A Quiet Place, and I still haven't had a chance to see that yet. But
you haven't seen the first one? Oh, so good.
No, I saw the first one. I haven't seen the second one. But there's no traffic on the highways, which means people are out.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, same here. Although North Idaho was a little different than where you're at. Nothing really closed here. They asked us to put masks on and people showed up at City Hall. So it was definitely different. But yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about this earlier. this is so different. Like the hiring market is super tight. I was having a conversation yesterday with someone who'll be on the podcast in a few weeks, and they're now experiencing like their offices can open now, especially in California, their offices can open and people don't want to come back. And they're in addition to having trouble finding people to fill open positions, them and others are having trouble getting their people to come back into the office at all.
But guess what, Jamie? You and I have always worked from home. Do we really need to come back?
Well, that's a really good question. And, when we made a commitment to stay remote, because we did have an office. And like you said, I worked remote for a really long time. But we did have an office. We closed that one in the pandemic, and we're going to stay that way through the end of 2021. But we're looking at it going, what are we missing that we've been doing our work really well for a year, maybe a little over a year, and haven't missed a beat. So why would we open an office?
I think there's definitely some benefits, though, of having an office. It's that one centralized location for employees to come together, have that social interaction, right? That collaboration that's so important. It's funny, I was talking to a girlfriend of mine. We were talking about working from home, what's changed, what are we missing, what's been super fabulous, right? So obviously, you've got the pros. You've got, I don't have to drive, or do this horrendous commute. The largest commute really is walking downstairs to getting my coffee. And if I don't have my coconut cream, non-dairy situation, now I've got to ride 10 minutes on my bike to the store and back, right? But personally, I think I like the idea of a hybrid model. So I think you and I were talking earlier about, some organizations, of course they're having some trouble, bringing everyone back 100%. I think employees are realizing that they can get just as much work done, if not more, if they don't have to if they have this horrible commute, if they don't have these distractions in the office place. But at the same time, you want that social interaction, that stimulation, that collaboration, right?
It's that trouble of finding the balance, right? Because I don't have a commute. I have the same commute as you. Although if I don't have my coconut creamer thing figured out and on point, I will just drink it black. But so how do you balance the culture? How do you balance keeping everyone together and united with the work from home? And I have a bunch of questions to ask you because you've worked remotely for
ever.
I think the longest, forever. But tell us about your career. What's your origin story? And then we're going to dive right into some of that remote work stuff.
Oh gosh, where should I start? I graduated from Santa Barbara from communications, thinking I was going to go into broadcast journalism. And this was like back in the 90s. And then I sort of lost my inspiration there. When I realized, I have to interview people, I have to work. But what was really interesting is as I was kind of going through this decision-making process for, what's my next step, a friend of mine was in the, they sort of, it was when the internet.com age started, right? So then I fell into channel marketing and I started with starting an education program for how do we get K through 12 schools on the internet. So people didn't know about email. People didn't know about the World Wide Web. They're like, what's www? So there you go. This is when
This is around 95, right?
Yeah, we don't have to name any dates.
Well, you were 14 getting your start after college.
82 or something like that. But, this is, of course, when everyone is working in the office. There's no concept of working from home, right? Then you fast forward, and then somehow, you fast forward into creating these really beautiful working relationships. So when I started working from home, which is probably, I don't know, like, let's say it's in the year 2002 or 3, I think this is when you and I first met during the school pod days, when you were with Coldwater Creek.
I was.
Coldwater Creek, yeah. And
it was, and I have a artifact from that time period. Hold on.
Let's do this.
I should have had it out. Where is it? I showed this to you before.
That's right.
This is the
this
for
is a
outstanding
blast from
contributions.
the past. I need you to take a photo of that. I'm going to send it to an old colleague of mine who was the one who hired me for School Pop, who we still keep in touch with.
That's awesome. I don't know why I've kept this.
I don't know why
probably
either.
it probably says a whole lot about me, but I've hucked that around for almost 20 years.
I love that you have that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But
It was a good time.
It was a great time. It was like internet.com era. It was the wild, wild west of affiliate marketing, and nobody really knew what affiliate marketing was. I mean, that was like the Be Free days when we were all free.
It was, yeah. Yep. That was like back in the day.
Back in the super day, exactly. And so, anyway, so I was asked to join School Pop because a friend of mine, Patrick, was like, I know you have this love for education, right? And it's always been about how do we promote education and at the time, their lack of technology in education. So it was all about like, how do we help them with fundraising, technology, internet access, teaching them about how to use all of this great technology. So that's sort of where I started. And then I think I might have taken a break in between that. And then I landed at Incentive Networks with, again, my good friend Patrick, who's like, hey, I know you love affiliate marketing. And we have this, I don't know if you are familiar with this website, eScript at the time. You know, they did online fundraising for schools, so shop online and make it count. And I was like, that's my jam. I love school fundraising. And affiliate marketing. So it was a match made in heaven. So with Incentive Networks, you know, with them powering and providing these loyalty platforms at the time, you know, I've sort of just stuck with this whole how can we always promote technology? How can we always improve these different types of programs in the space so that not only, I guess, from a business perspective, that everyone's generating revenue, right? But everyone's really making it count in, you know, for what their own personal cause, for a business cause, or, you know, for whatever it is that they think they need. Everybody wants to shop online and earn something.
Yeah. And this is the time frame, especially way back when with School Pop, where it was really hard to work with schools. But what's the educational thing? You're the only person, I have 4 kids. They've all been in school. I've never heard anyone say, I love school fundraising. What's behind that?
So I'm
usually when it comes to when it comes to fundraising, no one makes eye contact. Everyone looks away. What's it about education and school fundraising that has spoken to you for so long?
I don't really, you know, I think it's just really hard. Education has always been important to me in promoting education. And I think, you know what, my mom was an educator, you know, for a public school in San Jose. And they were always, you know, in need of money, right? Then, you know, as we get, now that we're older, we're parents, and we hear about teachers that are spending out of their own pocket for school supplies so that their kids can have pencils or crayons, you know, just, you know, the basic tools for education. What maybe it's like, you know, they want to take their the students to the zoo, but they can't afford it. You know, I mean, these teachers, you know, sometimes they need help, I think. So for me, yes, it's true. When people would see me at the school, they might turn in the other direction. However, guess what, Jamie? It always works out.
I bet you got it done.
We got it done. We did, you know, and it wasn't always just me, of course. You always work with a great team of people. But for me, I've always valued education, you know, just like I'm sure a lot of parents do also. But it's really about helping the schools and helping the community. So that's what I really enjoy.
That's outstanding. And I think you were telling me you've worked essentially for the same person. Is that Patrick? For forever.
Well, for on and off. I mean, there's, you know, the company went through a couple of acquisitions, and so there was a lot of changes, you know, and he is a really good friend of ours, and, you know, and we have another friend named Mike, you know, who's a really good friend of ours also. And unfortunately, you know, through acquisitions and changes, you know, people change, not people change, but like just the rules change and people move
Yep.
on. So I've been with the company or the organization Incentive Networks, I think since 2000. Has it been like over 20 years? I guess, yeah, on and off for over 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that crazy?
Wow. That is fantastic. Now, I wanted to ask you about their leadership. You've been there for so long and worked remotely for so long. So there's these two areas that I really want to dive into. So what is it about the organization that's kept you there and kept you coming back in terms of culture or leadership?
You know what? The people at the company, it's always about the people, right? That you really enjoy who you work with. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
It's what you're building and what you're creating also. So the clients and the relationships that have been created and fostered throughout the years, that's really important to me, to the point where, I feel like I have of course, a personal attachment to ensuring the success of these client relationships. Um, and then of course you've got affiliate marketing. It is literally the best channel on the planet. I love affiliate marketing so much. I love working with loyalty programs. I love knowing that, hey, I have that relationship, on this loyalty program site. That's me. I'm helping someone put money back into their pocket.
Yeah. And you can see a direct correlation between what you're doing and the help that you're able to provide.
Yeah. The help.
Yeah, the help. For those listening and not seeing, that's quote unquote help.
Yes, those are air quotes. Yes.
So, well, tell us and our listeners, give us the high level. What is Incentive Networks? What do you guys do? How are you different? What is the elevator pitch?
Well, the 10-second elevator pitch would be, Incentive Networks is an organization that's actually part of a larger organization. So our parent company is known as Tenerity. We were previously known as CX Loyalty, and this organizational change and acquisition occurred in December of 2021. So it's pretty recent. So the focus with Tenerity as the loyalty provider is really about providing profitable loyalty programs, right? Acknowledging that every program is different. Some programs are about building value for the customers. Some are, focused on providing a revenue generating program while at the same time providing value. And it's really about finding a really great balance so that everyone has a win-win proposition, right? And so with the Tenerity organization, we have all of these different omni-channels of content, whether it's online, direct, credit card, all of the different channels where you can gather and curate and procure this really beautiful content that's customized to the customer, so that when you are trying to work with your B2Bs, right, which really B2B2C, right, that at the end, the member or the consumer really sees the value in the content and keeps coming back for more. They understand that, when I'm shopping online, I'm making an account either for maybe it's for a charity organization, maybe it's for their own personal cause, maybe it's, it could be for whatever reason, but the idea is creating that engagement between the member and the loyalty program / client. That's what it's about.
Gotcha. And so from a consumer perspective, how did they interact with Incentive Networks? What's it look like for them?
We're like the magic sauce. So they will never know who we are, but they might know who the client, they'll know the loyalty program with the client that we power. So whether we have a financial institution or an airline that has a loyalty program, the member will know that airline or that financial institution, but they will never know our name because these are all private labeled.
Gotcha. So organizations like an airline or a bank or any organization can have their own loyalty program, their own loyalty mall, and you guys power that.
Yep.
So, gotcha. Okay, that That's easy to understand. Thank you. And so on your role, you're organizing all those deals and everything and your team from the perspective of working with the advertisers. So the airline doesn't have to do anything. Your customer essentially doesn't have to do any of that.
Right. Our clients can focus on their core needs and services. Maybe it's travel. Maybe it's a specific part about their loyalty programs and how they want to engage with their members. Incentive networks, we will focus on ensuring you've got the right online content for your members to engage with. How it's marketed, that's the fun part, right? And that's the part that a lot of our clients really enjoy promoting to their members, so they can create these great marketing programs based on the content we give to them.
And when you talk to me, what does content mean to you? And what when you provide content, is that offers, or is it way more, is it a much different animal than just that? Am I thinking too simplistic about it?
No, I think it could be anything and everything, but when I talk about incentive networks, or Tenerity, we're talking really about the promotions, the voucher codes. Is there cash back involved or points back involved? I don't think at this point it's necessarily about these blogs of, hey, I want to hear about what are the top 10 white trainers I should be thinking about, Superga or On, or I don't think it's, so for us, it's really, and maybe that it could be like that later down the line, who knows? But, we're really about like providing and creating that value for the customer so they can feel like they're earning and they are receiving some really fabulous discounts online.
Awesome. So the other area I kind of want to dive into is this working remote. Now we talked a little bit earlier, things are changing kind of yet again as things open. You've worked remote for maybe 17 years or so. What's been what are the keys for working remote on your end? What's worked really well for you?
Oh, hold on. I wrote this down.
Yes. Look at that. Coming with notes. Oh yeah. You typed that out. That is small font. That is spectacular.
Well, it's only because you can't see it through the camera, So, okay. Here is what kept me, in my mind, successful working remotely. I think you need to have discipline, number one. You have to be motivated to work. I think it's really easy to say, I think I'm just going to wake up at like 11 a.m., and start working. Well, the problem with that is that if you've got international time zones that need to be addressed, you sort of need to start your day a little bit earlier, So like, I work internationally. Sometimes my day can start at 7 a.m., sometimes 6:30 a.m., sometimes it ends at 11 p.m. or 1 a.m. in the morning. It really depends on when the meeting is done. So, and how much needs to get done. But you have to have that discipline. You have to have that motivation to get stuff done, I would say. I wrote down 5 things. Here are my top 5 things. And then I'm going to compare my list.
All right.
Okay.
No, this is great. And for everyone paying attention at home, this is our first version of a top 5 list. All right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say my number 2, the initiative to learn and meet new people. So working from home is, you don't have access to just people lounging around at the water cooler or getting coffee or being in the elevator, that when you're at home. So you really have to pay attention and be open to saying, oh, I've heard this name before. How do I reach out? Guess what? It's not a how do you reach out. You just reach out. Hi, my name is Karen. I heard your name and I wanted to find out what your role was and how we can work better together.
Fantastic. So often when we are talking about this subject, we are always, I hear that the onus is on the employer. How does the employer make remote work? You bring up a really good point. It takes both of us, employer and employee, to make this work. And there's an onus on the team member.
Right.
To be real intentional.
Well, guess what? I'm not going to just say, hey, whoever is my CEO or my CFO, I'm not going to be like, hey, how's it going? My name's Karen.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's sort of like, within at my level, right? I would,
Yeah.
well, this is me personally, I would feel more comfortable. However, you know, we'll talk about the C-suites I have a little comment to make about that from like, what should we think about, when we are working for the people that do work from home. So
Yeah, definitely.
right, the challenge is, of course, meeting people and seeing who's who and doing the pop-ins like, hey, I think I've got this issue with with a partnership. How would you how would you talk to this one client about resolution? So you just don't have that aspect, but you've got to be able to reach out and say, hi, I'm in sales, I need to talk to a product person. Who can I talk to? Hi, I need a customer support person. I heard that you're my guy or girl, right? So
Yeah.
so that would be number 2, the initiative, learn
Big number
and
2.
meet people. Yep. So number 3, focus and time management.
My favorite topic. I love
Right.
that you have that on there.
I'm not going to talk too much about it because clearly I have a problem with focusing anyways.
I love it.
But I think that, just manage your time appropriately. Be considerate and respectful of other people's time zones, and, give yourself permission to say no to meetings. Sometimes you just have to get the work done. So guess what? You can have, your Monday, like say for example, you've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, back-to-back meetings all day long, right? Well, you've made all of these commitments. When are you going to get the work done?
Yeah.
Right. So at some point, you've got to be able to manage your schedule and manage your time so that, expectations are met.
That's fantastic.
Okay. I think number 4, I wrote down curiosity. Find out about people and what their perspective on a project is that everyone is working on. Right. And this is where we talk about collaboration and really understanding that other person's point of view. It's a little bit more difficult, I think, when you don't have that face-to-face contact. I can't read your your nonverbal cues.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you want to understand, well, if you don't think it's going to work, well, why not? Right. So I live in it. I work in a shoebox here. Right. And when I talk to myself for collaboration, I hold up a mirror.
Do you really? I love that.
Me, myself, and I. That's my thing.
I may adopt that. My family will wonder what the hell is going on, but I love the idea.
Yeah. Why do you have so I think it's just important to always be curious. Otherwise, then you will never know how you can constantly enhance and improve your role to be and help your role be more valuable to other people. If you're just in your own, right? So if you just work from home and nobody sees you, you really have to step outside of your box and create an online presence for yourself, I think.
I love that.
Internally, not externally.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah. Maybe you need to create an online presence, but I can see how that's so important, especially new employees, to be curious and create that online presence within their organization. I can see how important that can be.
Yep. And then, of course, number 5, you got to have food in the fridge.
Food in the fridge. I love it.
Otherwise,
are we talking snacks or?
It doesn't matter. All kinds of snacks. Just make sure you got healthy munchies because, as you know, all we do is sit all day long. And and if you don't have anything in the fridge to eat, then you start ordering out. Then you start, then seriously, this is where my time management or focus starts to break down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, where's my charcuterie? I should not be eating charcuterie, but I think taking time out for personal health is really important. So just spend an hour, getting on the Peloton, going for a walk with the dog, doing something that you're not looking at a screen because you have to reset.
It's like I call it a self-care plan of having that time to take care of yourself. It's interesting that you mentioned the food in the fridge. That was one of my major worries about having the office at home, was because the full kitchen is available. And how in the world am I going to have the discipline not to just graze all day long? But it's super important. You got to keep fueled up, but also not, and the idea of the screen thing, I think that's what people really underestimate, how impactful it can be. If you're not disconnecting from it, you're working all the time.
Right.
You're literally on it all the time. And then you go sit in front of a TV screen and you're not getting any natural light. You can really work all day long.
Right. So in your office, do you have a window?
I do. I have two.
Okay. So like I have a huge here. Let me show you my window right here. Check this out.
Right on. We're getting a little tour. Slowly. Oh, this looks like a beautiful backyard.
It's my backyard. But
yeah,
I
killer pool.
I do have a pool. Yeah. Is that the first floor you got on the podcast?
That's the first performance marketing podcast cribs we've had yet.
Yeah, it's going to be a keeper. I think it's important you just have to take a break from the screens. You got to see real movement of trees and hear some birds and, just see water or hear water somewhere. There has to be a water element, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Trees and water,
yeah.
Definitely all for that. Now,
one of the things... They don't count.
Yeah, the barking dogs don't count. And I actually removed my Great Dane. She's made an appearance several times on this podcast, but
so cute.
I was getting a little, huge, like house horses.
Right. How big is he? Like, she's 95.
Our male's 180.
Oh, okay, that's big. I have a lab that's.
And our female's 160.
Okay, yeah. Oof.
They're enormous.
Those are horses.
Yeah. So, on our prep call, you mentioned something I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit, that working remotely can kind of make you feel like you're separate from the industry. Can you tell me more about what you meant by that?
I can, but I just realized we can get to your top 5.
Oh, my top 5 for working remote?
Yeah,
okay.
Top 5.
So put me on the spot. I would say one is a self-care plan. Like, how are you taking care of yourself? Diet, physical, emotional, spiritual needs. How are you taking care of those things? Partly, I think it's really important because it is so easy to be separate. It is so easy to be isolated when you're working from home. The other, I agree with you on discipline. I have what we do at JEB. What I do is we have a power hour, and it's either Friday or Monday, where a couple of things we look at is the calendar, our major projects we need to do, and we look and see, does our calendar jive with what we have to do? So, are you in meetings all week? Like you said, how do you find that time? So for me, it's planning ahead, looking at what you have to do, then looking at your calendar. Does it jive at all? Because one of the great ways to be able to say no to meetings is to not have the time open.
That's a good point. Yes, you really do need to make sure you're on top of your calendar. Yes.
Yeah. And I would say how you manage your email is a big thing.
Good one. Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah, because a lot of people will use that as their project management tool, and so if you ask, like,
really,
yeah, how many emails do you have in your inbox today, Karen?
It doesn't matter.
At JEB. Yeah, I will not answer that question. At JEB, it should be 0 at the end of the day. So trying to get to keeping it at inbox 0, and doing something we call do, delete, delegate. So when you get an email, you can delete it, you can do whatever you need to do with that email, or you can delegate it, or calendar it. So a lot of times I'll get something I can't do right now, but I need to do later. I'll put it on my calendar. So getting tight with that kind of management is
I like
important.
that one. Do, delete, or delegate. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's 3. I would say I liked your comment on being curious and reaching out to people. I think that intentionality, like your work day is your work day. You get to own it. Like for my employees, I don't own their work day. They get to own it. So are you being intentional with your day, with your work, with your career? Or are you kind of letting everything kind of come at you and just kind of reacting to everything? So I would say being intentional with your time.
Yep.
And if you want to connect with people, then go be intentional about connecting. I love that, what you said. So I'm totally stealing a bunch of yours.
I love it. I've had time to think about this.
You have, and I didn't even think you'd turn that around on me. I love it.
You're doing good.
And I would say have tough conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're working from home, tension can build up between two people, supervisor and employee, peer group, peers. And you can't tell body language in a Slack. You can't tell how they're carrying their face or tonality
Yep.
in that.
That's so true.
Yeah, getting really good at being okay with not confrontation, but I recently had a conversation. Yeah, open. I had a conversation with my neighbor. I thought he was upset with me. He was, and it was completely legitimate. And at the end, we were totally cool, worked it out. Everything was great. And I think in our workplace, because we're not forced sometimes to deal with those interpersonal conflicts and tensions, because we can just say, well, I'm not going to talk to this person today. Well, not talking to this person today can lead to not talking to that person like again. And so I think if we're going to continue to be working remote, and you have to be able to have those tough conversations like, hey, we need to talk about this thing that happened, or I'm getting the feeling like you don't want to work with me right now, or this project is not working. Let's talk about it. So having those like transparent and vulnerable conversations, I think are really important to working from home. And that's my number 5.
Yep. I think that's a good one, because I'm going to add on to that. If I'm going to maybe
please do.
Number 6. And, I'm thinking about like open, transparent, and authentic communication. Sometimes, like we don't always have the ability to interpret an email, right? Whenever we use Teams within our organization. Sometimes we use Slack, but I normally don't have a screen on. And even then, you can't always see the nonverbal cues. And I think it's really important to understand, being a communications major, of nonverbal and verbal cues. Sometimes you have to pick up the phone and just say, hey, how did I offend you? Or why? How do we get to a resolution? Help me understand, your perspective on this, and then it's usually okay. And if someone's just angry with you, just call it out. I try to leave my ego at the door all the time. I hope people don't think I have an ego.
Well, I think we all have an ego to some regard. I want to add, though, a 7th, because I'm going to build on what you just said. By the end of this podcast, we're going to have 48 things you should do as a remote worker. Yeah, is anyone writing this down right now? No, but the 7th is, if it's more than like a 2-sentence email or maybe a 6-word email, pick up the phone.
Oh my gosh. It's the same thing like with texting. If you're going to text me,
yes,
2 times, 2 times back, and they're more than 1 sentence, you better call me. Pick up the damn phone and call me.
Yeah, and I'm going to replay this for me, because I'm notorious for sending those text messages and probably those emails.
Jamie, guess what? That's why I'm like, hey, Jamie, I called you. Remember? I was like, what's going on? What's happening there? Are we doing this?
Well, we almost had to do that twice today. But yeah, it kind of weaves that intentionality and the discipline and the transparent, authentic conversations into like a tactical thing. Like if you have to write this long email to respond about a thing, especially if there's like emotion behind it, then make the call, make it on Zoom, let them see your face. And the thing that I hope I never do, and I may be guilty of this, is to send those more difficult conversations in something flat like a text or a email. I think those things need to be handled in a phone.
You can add a meme.
What's that?
Add a meme at the end and give it some personality.
Yeah. That sounds like a Michael Scott kind of way to send difficult emails.
But yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. It's sometimes picking up the phone and hearing someone's live voice makes a huge difference. Even if it's on Zoom, it's okay. But
yeah,
I think what you and I are both saying, it's really that ability to communicate in a really authentic way with each other.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we came up with 32 ways that you can effectively work from home.
You know what? If I have more time, I could probably come up with another 50.
Yeah. Well, and that'd probably be one hell of a list too. But tell me, let's go back to my question before you put me on the hot seat. You said that it's easy to feel or to separate from the industry
Mhm.
as a remote worker. Talk to me about that.
I think that one of the challenges of being a remote worker is the lack of collaboration that is so easily, what's the word? That we take for granted, right? Seeing
Yeah.
people in the hallway. You don't have that easy collaboration with, hey, I am looking for some information. Maybe it's like a research thing that you're doing, and you're like, hey, you happen to catch the person in the hall saying, do you have any information about this? I mean, of course, you can easily just, type it out, and someone can respond to you if they're there. Sometimes they're not there. But I think what happens is, you can ask for, you have a request. The person will just typically just give you the deck or fulfill the request, online. However, when you're, having a conversation over coffee, the question expands, or the conversation expands to,
Mm,
oh, well, what are your intentions with the deck? Why are we providing this to them? Have you thought about this perspective? Have you thought about including this information? Right? And sometimes it just doesn't come as easily or as intuitively, you know, as if,
yeah.
you're just right there in person. Maybe you're talking about a project. There's a project that's coming up. There needs to be a team of 5 people. It's really hard to have 5 people on a Teams call, right?
Yeah.
And talk through the user requirements or the stories or, whatever it is. You can't have people talking over each other. Makes it hard.
Yeah. I found that anything more than 3 on a Zoom starts to become ineffective.
Or when someone has a bad connection that you really need to connect with them, right? But either
Yeah.
that person or yourself just has some crap connection with the microphone. And you're just kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, I think I'm just going to call you, but that's going to cut someone else out or the other people on the team out. So then there's no collaboration. Then you're just hosed.
Definitely. I can see how that happens. Now, one of you've really got a good handle on for me and your perspective as an employee working remote. But what would you say to the managers, the CEOs that are now trying to figure out how to do this? What should they know? What should they hear from a remote employee? That you would want them to know.
I wrote
What
it
should it?
down.
And I see. All right, another list. Let's do this.
Dun, dun, dun. Top 5.
See, this is one of the greatest things about this podcast is I get to ask questions I really want to know.
Right.
And this is what we're working through right now
Okay.
is our
Because
culture is different from when it was in an office. So
everything is so different,
yeah, talk to
the way
me.
that people communicate are so different. Even when I was working from home, and people were still in an office. I mean, the whole method of communication is more different. And so let's see. What would I want my C-suite management team to know? Okay, so just kind of going back to the first question, I think this might be something really interesting. So part of the whole thing about working from home is that you don't have the opportunity to just sort of engage with your CEO or CFO or whoever your C-suite team member is, right? By that, I mean, like, when you're walking up the stairs and they're walking down the stairs, there's no friendly hello. There's no putting a face to the name, right? There's no,
Yeah.
hey, I'm standing in line, to get a sandwich, at the, at the lunch area. And, oh, I'm looking over and I'm like, oh, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
There's none of that. So there's no way to really build any type of relationship with an executive at that level. And I think for me, when I was working in an environment where I did have to go into the office, I personally really appreciated being able to talk to our CIO or our CTO or our CFO at the time, mainly because I'd catch them in the elevator. Hey, how's it going? What, how are you doing? Oh, great. How are you doing? So at least, when your name was brought up, there's a face to the name they can put through, right? So I think that, as we want, the companies to understand, here are some of the things that maybe we should consider, to help those people that still do work from home, would be to maintain whatever one-on-ones, right, that they would have either on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis. So whether it's an all hands meeting at the C level, maybe with your direct reports, right, maintain the one-on-ones. I appreciate the one-on-ones I have with my manager, just because that's a great time to talk about all the things that I'm working on. I get a different perspective on the things that he has visibility into with what I'm doing. But, he's like, well, have you thought about doing this? Or have you thought about doing that? Or please call this person because they're working on something similar and you need to know about this, right? So those one-on-ones are super valuable. We talked about the all hands meetings with the C-level people. Maybe it's just, because you are, you're JEB, right? You're JEB.
Yeah.
So maybe you just sort of pick, you do random meetings with maybe 3 to 4 people, lunch sessions, or coffee talks with 4 people, and just say, hey, I know who you are. I sort of know what you're working on. I just wanted to reach out and just have like a 15-minute chat, Nothing to put them on the spot about, but it's really about building a relationship.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
providing that visibility. And I think that when you're able to have discussions with upper management, right, you feel connected. You feel on so many different levels. You feel inspired, right? So, so I think having that type of engagement is really important for any organization's remote workers, even if they're doing a hybrid situation, right? Something that I thought would be super fun is, and my husband's company does this, and I think a lot of companies do this too, but creating a virtual team event, whether it's on Teams or Zoom or whatever, where you have something fun like a whiskey tasting, so you have, and it could be like a wine tasting. Maybe it's like you have to, maybe it's like a food, a cooking contest of some type where you have like a small, like maybe it's 10 people, within the same organization. So, my husband's company, they had this really great whiskey tasting where they had a couple of different whiskey labels mailed to all of their employees. And then they had would you call it the whiskey sommelier? Yeah, thank you. I can never pronounce that word, but you know what I mean. But the whiskey expert saying, hey, we're going to talk, we're going to do this one. And then it would all be, everyone has their camera on and they're all like, drinking, whatever, hearing the stories and pairing it with whatever was in the box, right? Yep. And I was like, wow, what a great way to do something virtual, safe, and super fun. What a great team building experience, So I'd probably say creating that type of a vibe with some of those remote workers. And then I talked a little bit about, with the executives, it's really about creating, you've got the all hands meeting, or maybe you have like these 15-minute chat sessions with, the people that you remotely handpick, right? Every week or every month. But really what the idea is, it's about creating these very small group exposures to people like you, right, Jamie? So you're CEO, you're the owner, GM, and everybody wants a piece of you. So sometimes you get a piece of you in the elevator. Sometimes you get a piece of you, waiting in line at lunch. How do we create these what we would consider insignificant events, right? To just kind of create this relationship or engagement with the wider teams.
Love that.
And then, of course, for the people, I think we should all have like a travel situation where everyone just goes to the Bahamas.
I like that.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a lot of this is some personal time. We don't have water cooler talk. We don't have impromptu collisions. like we used to, and being intentional with those collisions, and then also shared experiences. Like, how do you build relationship with people, whoever they are,
Right.
to whoever they are? It's shared experiences.
Yep.
So that travel definitely, is one of those too.
Yeah, it's really about creating situations and experiences with those remote workers that allow them to feel super connected and engaged. Because we all have the same goals, but it's about recharging those batteries, right? Knowing that when I see my CEO, when I see my manager, I'm like, I feel like I'm doing something super valuable. I feel like I'm a valued employee, and I appreciate that feeling.
That's awesome.
I'm sure you do that all the time. So, wait for JEB, Jeb, JEB.
Yeah. JEB.
JEB. Yep. What are you in your management teams? Like, how are you guys creating this environment of engagement with your wider teams?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Thank you for asking. We've instituted a couple things. One is open office hours. So try to create these small group exposures. So where my director of affiliate marketing and myself make ourselves available to ask anything. So come join the meeting. You have a problem you want to work through. A lot of times it's towards the end of the day, someone will just bring a drink and sit and chat with us together. And that's fantastic. We do 2 stand-ups a week, and those stand-ups are real intentional. We started them out as like, hey, we're going to have a 15-minute stand-up twice a week with no agenda and no rhyme or reason or goal to it. And those were hollow and shallow, and they really didn't, people began to dread them. So now we have them scheduled out where different teams get to bring an obstacle or a challenge that they want the whole company to help with. And then some of our leadership they have their own stand-up. They own a stand-up, and they'll bring a short training snippet for 15 minutes. And then I do a sort of a state of the company for 15 minutes in one of those stand-ups. So we have the stand-ups. We have a team meeting that we have. And then we have every other Friday a happy hour, which, like you're talking about, a whiskey tasting and stuff like that. A lot of times I think half the time we get a drink kit sent to us, and we all get to try a new and unique drink together.
I love that. That is fantastic. Yep, yeah, exactly.
The other we bring our own. And then what we found, going back to any more than 3 people on a Zoom, it can be not effective or ineffective. We break out those happy hours. So we spend 5 minutes, all of us together, and then we break it out in the groups of 2 to 4.
Okay.
Or 3 to 4. And then we enjoy our happy hour that way. And then the other, the core of sort of that cultural element and keeping people connected is our employee development process. So every employee has a development meeting once a week. And sometimes we talk about real technical aspects of their job and task oriented. It's where do they want to go? Where are they trying to get to? And how do we provide the experiences and exposure to get them there, as quickly as we can? And so that is one of the ways. And in COVID, while we were scrambling to make sure things move forward, it's one of the areas that we actually dropped. And not realizing that we did that, we had to really push hard to bring back and be real intentional about making sure that everyone has that time with their mentor or their manager, talking through how they're doing, what obstacles they're finding with clients, what blind spots they may have, and generally how to improve. And it helps us as leaders stay connected with what's going on there. So those are some of the things we're planning. We've done a virtual retreat with our team.
Okay.
And
what was that like?
We are now that was great. There's some lessons to be learned there. One was we just didn't have that whole shared experience aspect. Going to a conference, which you and I haven't had the opportunity to do in a long time.
Really long time.
Going to a conference, there's so much there as a shared experience. So on our next one, we're going to incorporate and have it more shared experiences than lectures, presentations, learnings type of thing. Because as the team is remote, that those having shared experiences build those relationships. But it was a 2-day event that can be a little long. to sit and listen to presentations. But overall, I think it was effective. It was sort of we're coming out of this pandemic. Where do we go from here? Who are we kind of summit? And it worked. I thought it worked really well. The next one we're going to try to do in person, because now one thing the pandemic taught us is working remotely is totally a possibility and can be done really, really well. So we've hired people from all over the country. So getting all of them to come and have these shared experiences and spend time face to face, now that it's a lot safer to do so, I'm really, really looking forward to. But I've even learned a couple things that one of the things we did prior to COVID was an AMA, one with different levels of the company. So I will host an AMA lunch with maybe our entry level employees, and we go out, we grab something to eat, and there's no agenda. You ask me whatever you want, or we'll talk about football or the Sixers or something, the whole time. It doesn't matter. And then I do that at different levels as the CEO. And now that we can actually go out to lunch, we'll be doing that as well. So those are some of the things that we've tried and kind of getting back to.
That's awesome. What is an AMA?
Ask me anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But what a great way to connect with, your employees and the organization, because it's a two-way street, right? It's sort of like you've got your leadership and your executive team. I mean, everyone's busy, right? And I know that there's like so much, it's a different level, of busyness.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We can get so busy, especially in our space, right? Mm-hmm. Are you ever done with your job at the end of the day?
Yeah. I'm still thinking about stuff at night. I've got to write stuff down, all different ideas.
We have this, this thing that we are always super busy, but we're not making that intentionality to have those different things. And we can make a lot of excuses, leadership down, saying, well, everyone's really busy. Adding another meeting is not going to help. And we can make excuses up. Like, I know they're busy trying to keep things moving forward, and I'm really busy. I don't need another lunch meeting or another thing like that. But it's those, my coach calls them glass balls, is those glass balls that you can't drop, because they break. Now, rubber balls will bounce. So this task, we'll let that bounce for a while, but I have to go make a connection with my teammates, with my employees, with my supervisor, and things like that. And that's really been a key. That's been one of the reasons we've been able to get through the last 18 months so well.
Excellent.
So one of the things you talked about is the struggle to balance out your organization's priorities with your partner's priorities, especially within the affiliate marketing. We have, as affiliate managers and working in this space, we have multiple kind of customers, multiple clients. We have the company we work at, we have the clients we work with, we have the affiliates that work with those clients. You guys very similar. So talk to me about the struggle of managing those different priorities.
At the end of the day, I think, how do we balance out the priorities is we've got to, so this is what I'm going to say. How we balance out our partners' priorities with our company's initiatives is you've got to really understand what our internal company's level of support can actually support and what can we plan for. So I would never say no, but I would just say, let me check on that, because maybe it's somewhere in the pipeline and I'm just not aware of it, which goes back to the collaboration you need, with being an online worker. You've got to know who to talk to. If you don't know who to talk to, forget it. You can't even do your job well. So I think that as long as you are an authentic and honest communicator, that would probably be the best way to balance out those discussions with the partners.
Gotcha. And what do you think the common mistakes advertisers make when running their programs? So you see it from a pretty unique perspective. What are some of the common mistakes that they make?
I think this is it's really just basic things like attention to detail. My name is Karen, not Kathy.
I hope you're not referencing an email I've sent you in the past.
No, not at all. But, I just think it's attention to detail to how the program is being run, number one. So, for example, we will have, with pandemic, right? You've got approval. The time to approve a transaction has changed because the return period with the merchant changes. It gets extended.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like a 30-day return policy, but they had extended to 60 days, right? Well, then you start following this line of path where they're like, well, we're not going to, we will approve, pay, approve, lock, and then pay. And then you go through the transaction queries, the customer support issues, where we had a merchant that said something like, well, we're not going to accept any transaction queries 30 days after the transaction was made. And so you have to go back and you have to say, well, wait a minute, your return policy is 60 days. So this is going to impact the member experience. And then we can't really support this transaction. So think about that timeline at least. So really it's about the program management. Pay attention to your program, pay attention to the timelines, pay attention to maybe like how much you're paying for a campaign, and make sure you're not creating duplicate payments, right? It's just little administrative things like that. So I would say just pay attention to the administrative pieces of the program and make sure it all makes sense, number one. And then number two, remember that relationships cannot be automated. You always need to talk to somebody.
Preach on.
Right? And it's all about the relationship. So don't discredit or undermine the value of speaking to a real person. I can't always, whenever I want to participate with a program, of course, it's always great when you get that automatic approval or that automatic decline, right? That's fine. Yeah. But I will always want to reach out and say, hi, my name is Karen. I just joined the program. Tell me more. This is what we want to do. Yeah.
And that alignment is part of building a strong relationship. If you value your partners, you're going to look at that timeline, not just the payments when things lock, but also how's your settings impacting their performance, and making sure when things change, as they did so often in the last year, like it's probably been the best area for us to practice, adapting to new and unique crazy crap every 2 weeks, was this year. Make sure those things are aligned, because if it is, and we talk about it a ton, every podcast episode, we talk about this, it is about relationships. But if you don't show the care and the that alignment and the deep attention to those details, you burn relationships. On the other end is a Karen who has worked with and has the opportunities to work with not only your competitors, but other people she can work with to generate revenue for her clients. And if you're not taking that care, then you won't pick up the phone.
That's a really good point too. That's right. I mean, I will never be offended, but I'll just remember. I'm kidding.
I will remember. I've told this story a number of times on the podcast, but there are still affiliates. And I had to make a decision at Coldwater Creek 20 years ago, and they still don't like me. Now, fortunately, they like my team, but they wouldn't work with me because of a decision made and a mistake on my part 20 years ago. So affiliates have a really long memory as well.
Yeah. Oh, and here's number 3. Can you please pay your invoices on time?
Tell me, like, outside of the obvious, just explain a little more why that's so important.
Well, we have obligations to our client to ensure that whatever commissions are earned are also passed back through to the client. So we need to make sure that not only as my organization is paid appropriately, I'd like to pay my client appropriately, right? Part of the payment process also from an operational perspective means that I'm closing transactions and showing status of awarding to the members also at the same time. There's all these different rules in place, so it's going to be different for all types of members. But typically when I receive a payment in a payment file, I can close a transaction and I can be done. We can move on to the next set of transactions that come through. But when I'm not paid on time, I can't pay my clients on time. And people get upset about that. They really do, So it would be super helpful. I know stuff happens all the time. just respond to my emails. I'm not, just because I'm the school fundraiser lady, you don't need to walk away from me.
Don't avoid me.
Yeah. I mean, there is now a contractual obligation for payment, so I'm expecting that to be honored.
Yeah. Simple. Honor your agreement. That's all.
This isn't a donation.
But it's interesting to see, a lot of times, and we deal with clients, and they don't necessarily have that insight into what that's like for you.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume that's very stressful. It creates more work for you as now your clients are asking, when are we going to get paid? Or you guys have to lay that cash out without getting reimbursed or waiting on that. I know as a small business, any delays in invoicing can be very difficult. And so for you guys too, it creates a ton of work for you. Again, kind of tarnishing the relationship that you have.
Yeah.
And so some of those things, I love how you brought up the administration side of this. That hasn't been talked about on the podcast yet, of how it is from your perspective, like those simple things,
it just
alignment.
Makes it so much easier. It's just a
Definitely.
smooth program to run. I mean, what have you seen on your side, that, you would want to say to the advertisers that you manage? How can, those are the things I would say, this is how you can make things easier for the publisher. What are the things that your account managers are telling them, do you think?
Well, as far as, mistakes advertisers make, or what would make it easier in general?
I guess a little bit of both,
I think the main mistake I think advertisers make is by categorizing their affiliates and painting this category with one brush and this category with one brush. And what they miss is what's the result that they're getting with that,
okay.
with
I
that
didn't think about
advertised.
that perspective. Okay. Yeah.
So there are very common misconceptions of what loyalty sites bring to the table and don't. There are misconceptions what coupon sites bring to the table and don't. And there's misconceptions of what content and niche publishers bring. And it's easy to do data analysis and roll it up into categories and say this category is working well, this category isn't. But you can have one bad affiliate in a category and now the whole category looks good. So I think the way that we manage things is we try to take those labels away. We use them at times when it's necessary, but we try to take those away and say, this affiliate, what are they driving?
Mm-hmm.
What's the impact that they're providing? Okay. And how are they doing that? But the how are they doing that and what their name is and what category is comes after, are they driving what we need?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm managing something and I need new customers, are they driving it? Yes or no? It's a simple, unemotional answer. So the mistake is they're not looking at the data and they're making a emotional decision on who they should work with based on what they think the category does and doesn't do, with very little empirical data to back that up. And then as far as the relationship with publishers, I think is not understanding. Many of the C-level people we work with have come up through either a finance or other digital marketing channels, and they think all the channels work that way. So all channels are like display, put an ad, pull a lever, change how you're pulling those levers and things work. And there is a huge element of relationship building in here. So if you are late consistently on your invoices to affiliates, and then you need a bump for Father's Day weekend and you're trying to get some exposure, they don't know why they're not getting it.
That's a good point.
You have to take care of those people who are going to take care of you. And that's primarily a big service of what we provide. So they don't have to worry about that. We'll take care of them. But, and those little things like it's such a great thing for you to bring up, those little administrative details. And then a podcast we published last week, not asking the question, if I were an affiliate publisher, would I be okay with this decision? What would I want? And that's probably what would really help a lot of affiliate managers and a lot of advertisers make decisions that impact their bottom line through the affiliate channel much better, because they often don't think of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say, the big question is, how do you define success? So if you want to make sure that you've got quality publishers in your program, well, how are you defining success? Well, how do you define success? And is there alignment there?
Yeah.
It's kind of an easy question, but as I think about, I know I talked a little bit about the program management and administrative side. This is what makes things much easier for publishers, and some of the mistakes and the administrative mistakes that occur. It's like if I take it up a higher level, I would probably say just maybe not always valuing valuing the affiliate channel in and of itself. There's always that age-old philosophy, right, or debate of why should I have to pay for an affiliate sale when they're going to come to me anyways? Well, that's not always what it's about. It's about, supporting, your partners' loyalty programs, right, who are supporting you in turn in creating this value, this co-value, right, because you're doing it together back to the member.
Yeah, I love that. Why, what are you just trying to get out of it? And then like sometimes it's just supporting your audience. Like that's where they want to go. And if you're not there, they'll go somewhere else. It's very easy to make another purchasing decision in another direction and you not get the nod. Karen, I have enjoyed this so much. This has been a great episode, and I'm glad we were able to, in spite of the universe conspiring against you and I on multiple occasions, including several times today, we were able to record this, and this has been fantastic. Now, if anyone wants to reach out to you to get involved with Incentive Networks as an advertiser or even in any other capacity, what's the best way that they can follow you or contact you?
They could probably just find me on LinkedIn, or they can send me an email to my Incentive Networks address at karen.snyder@incentivenetworks.com.
Awesome. Well, Karen, thank you so much. I'll include that in the show notes so that they can get a hold of you. I appreciate it. It was a really enjoyable and insightful conversation. I've got 2 pages of notes from that. And I think any leader or CEO has I love you got 2 pages of notes as well.
Actually,
you came here with those. 3. Outstanding. Well, Karen, thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jamie. Really appreciated the time with you.
Now, I think you can tell that Karen and I had a lot of fun recording this episode for you today. Karen, thank you so much. It has been so great to reconnect after all these years and to have this conversation. I learned a ton, and I really did take 2 pages of notes about some of the things that you shared. It was really good to hear what the C-level executives, what managers should hear from their employees about working remote. And I'm going to go back and kind of evaluate my performance in our company on those things as well. There's a few things that I'm going to be adding, but we talked about such a wide range of subjects, and really want you to dive into some of those things, what it's like, that topic of authenticity and transparency and communication, the discipline it takes to run a company that's remote, to build a culture that's remote, but also to work in one that's remote. So go back and revisit those early conversations we had about the discipline. We're going to include that top 5 that Karen shared. We're going to include the other 2 that we created there on the fly in our show notes. So please go there and definitely reach out to Karen on LinkedIn. We'll include the link in our show notes as well if you want to get involved with Incentive Networks or follow or chat with her about anything we chatted about today. So Karen, again, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of our conversation. I can't wait till we can share a coffee or a drink at the next affiliate summit or other event. Now, like I said in the top of the show, we cover so many different things in this podcast, especially like today, for the first time, talked about the importance of administration, keeping things aligned and making sure you are locked down on your administration, those types of things like the returns and order queries and those types of things, keeping those unlocked. So we cover a ton of stuff on this podcast. And that's why we put together a guide outlining 19 strategies that you can use to survive in the current climate. We wrote that at the beginning of COVID to help you get through, but they are all relevant right now. You can go to JEBCommerce.com/strategies to download your free guide. Definitely do that. But there's other ways you can get help right now. You can email us at gethelp@JEBCommerce.com and we will help you with whatever you need. You can also go to calendly.com/Jamie Birch and you can set up time with me to talk about your affiliate program, your digital marketing, or any of the problems that you need help with. So definitely use those resources. Now, if you found this podcast useful, take a moment right now, share it with a friend, share it on Facebook, and I would really appreciate a review on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, and whatever podcast app you are using. Let us know if this was useful. If you'd like to be a guest, you can also email us at gethelp@JEBCommerce.com. We'd love to get you on there. And a special shout out to my producer, Shane. Thank you so much for continuing to put all these things together and edit things as needed. Really appreciate your hard work. And special shout out to you, buddy.